Kiribati, Solomon Islands, Maldives, 3 low-lying countries that have been predicted to disappear by the end of this very century due to a rise in sea level. The culprit? Carbon dioxide. This molecule, this gas, which absorbs and traps heat in the Earth's atmosphere, causing the global temperature to rise. The amount of carbon dioxide in air has been constantly rising since the Industrial Revolution due to the burning of petrol, which is a mixture of these types of substances called alkanes, made of carbon and hydrogen atoms attached to each other. And when you burn petrol, these carbon and hydrogen atoms detach from each other, combine with oxygen in air to become water and carbon dioxide, which move off into the atmosphere. Now imagine that we can take back these carbon dioxide molecules, put them back together with water to get back our alkane. Plants have been doing a process similar to this for millions of years, photosynthesis, by combining carbon dioxide and water to produce their food, glucose. Today, we can also do it in a single-step reaction called alkane reverse combustion. But instead of producing glucose, like plants, we can produce synthetic petrol. This process does not even require a large amount of energy. It takes place in the presence of light, heat, both of which that can be concentrated from the sun, and a catalyst, which is a substance that simply helps the reaction take place. What makes this process even more interesting as compared to other energy alternatives for vehicles is that it is providing us with the same fuel that our vehicles are using today. So, no need to change all the vehicles of our country, nor the current fuel distribution system. In case some of you are still wondering, what is the point of taking carbon dioxide from air, putting it back together as petrol, and then burning it to send it right back into the atmosphere? That is not really helping with the global warming problem, right? Wrong. The difference we're bringing is that we're not digging the carbon from the ground to send it into the air. We're taking it from the air to send it right back there. This is what we call a carbon neutral process. Even though we're not decreasing the amount of carbon dioxide, we're not increasing it either. So that would definitely put a brake on the global warming process. We, as inhabitants of a small island, which is extremely vulnerable to the adverse effects of global warming, and as citizens of the world, it is imperative that we seriously start looking into these alternative methods of fuel production if we don't want thousands of people to lose their homes and even their countries in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, some scientists say that we are already past tipping point, in as much as too much carbon in the air. So how do you remove this extra?
There are different ways. First of all, you're right about it, because carbon dioxide is one of those gases which kind of stays for a long time in the atmosphere compared to other gases like methane, nitrous oxide, and even water vapor, which have lower cycles. Like, for example, methane, after 10 years, it would be gone because it would be converted to carbon dioxide. But carbon dioxide, it has been seen that after 100 years, about 80% of it would be gone from the atmosphere due to natural cycles, but about 20% of the carbon dioxide stays on for about 800 years. So whatever carbon dioxide we have already produced, it might still be there for the next 800 years, so we're still doing it. So coming back to your question, there are other methods that have been explored, like carbon dioxide sequestration, like when we're burning the carbon dioxide and then putting it as carbon dioxide into the ground. That would be one of the methods I could use. But I think ideally, if we could be planting more trees, but given that the growing world population, that might also be a little bit difficult. So probably science is proposing, at least if we can't at least stop it, but at least put a brake on it, like I'm saying, if we can at least stop digging the petrol and sending it into the air, if at least we can recycle it, at least that would be putting a brake before we can actually change all the vehicles, because that will take time, and that will consist of a lot of investment at the same time. So as a transition, this could potentially be a method to save us and our children.
Roughly how much of the atmosphere is carbon dioxide?
Today, it is about 400 parts per million. That represents about 0.04% of the atmosphere, which consists about a 35% increase since the last 100 years. Because before it was before the Industrial Revolution, that was about 0.03%, 300 parts per million. So in the last 40 years, it has increased by about 35%.
So Mauritius is a small country. Lots of us drive backwards and forwards. How do we grow enough plants?
I didn't get you. Sorry.
How do we grow enough plants to create the petrol that this country needs in such a small space?
The plants to create petrol. So the proposal I'm putting forward is something that definitely, because carbon dioxide is found everywhere. Even if in Mauritius, the plant itself would not take a large surface, not really, because basically what we need is a system to draw in the air that can filter off the carbon dioxide, and that would not take a large space. And then connected to that would be that system where we have our photocatalyst and then concentrating sunlight on it. So that would not really take a lot of space. But given that Mauritius is a small country, we can also consider other places in the world, because like I'm just saying, planting trees, they don't grow everywhere, but we can even be putting these types of plants in deserts where trees don't grow. So that would be the perfect alternative together with
I know you're talking about solving one of the biggest problems on the planet, but we're on a tight schedule here, so we'll have to leave it there. Some globally warm applause for the alkane alchemy of Roshnee Rajkomar.